Jake Morrison looked out the window of his spaceship. He was an admiral in Earth's space navy, and he had never seen anything like what was in front of him. 300 alien ships floated in space near Jupiter. Each ship was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. They looked like they were made of blue crystal that shone with its own light. Jake had been in space for 20 years. He had fought pirates and helped build colonies on Mars. But this was different. These were not human ships. These were ships from another world, another race of beings that humans had never met before. Lisa, Carter walked up to Jake. She was the captain of the ship and his best friend. In her hand was a piece of paper. Her hands were shaking as she gave it to him. "The message came in 10 minutes ago," Lisa said. "It's from the aliens. They call themselves the Zephyrian Empire." Jake took the paper and read it. The words were in perfect English, which made him feel cold inside. How did these aliens know their language so well? The message was short but clear. "People of Earth, we are the Zephyrian Empire. We have ruled the stars for 3,000 years. We have come to your world to make you part of our empire. You will give up all your weapons. You will give us control of all your colonies on other planets. You will do what we tell you to do. If you agree, we will let you live. If you do not agree, we will destroy you. You have 7 days to decide." Jake read the message 3 times. Then he looked back at the alien ships. 300 ships against Earth's 50 ships. It was not a fair fight. "Get me President Hayes on the radio," Jake said to Lisa. President John Hayes was in his office in Washington when Jake's call came through. Hayes was a tall man with gray hair who had been president for 4 years. He had dealt with many problems, but nothing like this. "Mr. President," Jake said over the radio, "you need to see this message." Within an hour, every important person on Earth knew about the aliens. The president called a meeting of the United Earth Council. People from Mars, Europa, Titan, and all the other human colonies joined the meeting through video calls. General Frank Torres was the first to speak. He was in charge of all of Earth's military forces. He was a strong man who had never lost a battle, but today he looked worried. "The situation is bad," Torres said. "We have 50 warships. They have 300. Our biggest ship has weapons that can destroy a building. Their smallest ship can probably destroy a city." Dr. Helen Brooks was next to speak. She was Earth's top expert on alien life. She had spent her whole life wondering what aliens might be like. Now she wished she had never found out. "I have studied their message and the design of their ships," Dr. Brooks said. "These Zephyrians are very old and very smart. They have conquered many worlds before ours. Every time they make this offer, the other race says yes. No one has ever said no to them. Why not?" asked President Hayes. "Because everyone who said no is dead," Dr. Brooks answered. The room went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. A man from Mars spoke up. His name was Governor Pete Williams, and he was in charge of the Mars colony. "Maybe we should think about their offer," he said. "If we say yes, at least humans will still be alive." "Alive as slaves," said Governor Amy Chun from Europa. "They want to control everything we do. That's not living. That's just existing." The debate went on for hours. Some people wanted to fight. Others wanted to surrender. A few wanted to try to negotiate with the aliens. Jake Morrison listened to all of them. He thought about his daughter. Back on Earth, he thought about all the humans living on different worlds. He thought about what it would mean to give up without a fight. Finally, President Hayes called for quiet. "We need to vote," he said. "All in favor of surrendering to the aliens, raise your hand." 5 people raised their hands. "All in favor of trying to negotiate with the aliens, raise your hand." 3 people raised their hands. "All in favor of refusing." Their demand, raise your hand. Everyone else raised their hands. It was not even close. President Hayes nodded. The decision is made. We will send our answer to the Zephyrian Empire. The message was sent on every radio frequency humans knew how to use. It was broadcast to the alien ships, to every human colony, and to Earth itself. The message was short. To the Zephyrian Empire. We are the people of Earth. We have heard your demand. Our answer is no. We will not surrender. We will not give up our freedom. We will not bow down to you. If you want to fight us, then fight us. But we will never submit. Jake Morrison watched. The alien ships through his window. He knew they had just started a war they could not win. But he also knew they had done the right thing. On the alien ships, the Zephyrian commanders read the human message. They looked at each other in surprise. In 3,000 years of conquest, no race had ever said no to them. The Zephyrian admiral gave his orders. Prepare for attack. Show these humans what happens to those who defy the Empire. The war was about to begin. The aliens did not wait long to attack. 2 days after Earth said no, the Zephyrian ships began to move. They split into groups and headed toward different human colonies. Their first target was the mining station on Ceres. Commander Alex Reed was in charge of defending the outer colonies. He had 12 small fighter ships and 30 brave pilots. When he saw the alien fleet heading toward Ceres, he knew his small force could not stop them. But he had to try. All pilots, this is Commander Reed, he said over the radio. We are going to fight. We might not win, but we will make them pay for every inch. The battle at Ceres lasted only 4 hours. The human fighters were fast and there. Pilots were skilled, but the alien weapons were too powerful. The Zephyrian ships fired beams of blue light that could cut through metal like a hot knife through butter. Lieutenant Kevin Shaw was flying his fighter when he saw the mining station explode. Thousands of people had lived and worked there. Now they were all gone. I'm going in, Kevin said over the radio. Kevin, no. Commander Reed shouted, come back. But Kevin was already flying straight at the biggest alien ship. He pushed his engines to full power and aimed his fighter at the ship's bridge. His fighter carried a nuclear bomb, the most powerful weapon humans had. Kevin's ship smashed into the alien vessel and exploded. The nuclear blast was bright as a star. When the light faded, the alien ship was still there. It had a small scratch on its hull, nothing more. But something important had happened. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone had hit a Zephyrian ship. The aliens had felt human weapons touch their vessels. Commander Reed pulled back his remaining fighters. Only 6 were left. They retreated toward Mars, where Captain Maria Santos was organizing the evacuation of civilians. Maria Santos had been a cargo ship captain before the war. Her job was to move supplies between planets. Now her job was to save lives. She commanded 50 transport ships, all trying to carry people away from the outer colonies before the aliens arrived. This is Captain Santos to all transports, she said over the radio. The aliens are coming fast. We need to get everyone off these planets now. The evacuation was chaos. People packed whatever they could carry and ran for the ships. Families were separated. Children cried for their parents. Old people moved slowly while young people helped them. Maria's ship, the Liberty Bell, was carrying 5,000 refugees when the aliens arrived at Europa Station. The station was home to 2 million people. Most of them were still trying to get to the escape ships when the attack began. The Zephyrian ships surrounded Europa Station like sharks around a wounded whale. Their blue weapons fired again and again. The station's shields held for a while, but not long enough. All ships, this is Captain Santos, Maria said. We have to go now. We can't save everyone. It was the hardest thing she had ever said. As her ship flew away, she could see Europa Station breaking apart. Thousands of people were still inside, but Maria's sacrifice was not wasted. Her transport ships carried 3 million people to safety. They would live to fight another day. On Earth, General Torres watched the reports from the outer colonies. The news was all bad. Ceres was gone. Europa Station was destroyed. The Mars shipyards were under attack. "How many people did we lose?" President Hayes asked. "We don't know yet," Torres said. "Maybe 50,000, maybe more." "And how much damage did we do to them?" Torres looked at his reports. "Almost none. We scratched one ship." President Hayes sat down heavily in his chair. The war was only 3 days old, and humanity was already losing badly. But Torres had other news. "Mr. President, I need to tell you about Operation Prometheus." "What's that?" "It's our secret project. For the last 10 years, we have been building hidden research bases all over Earth and the colonies. If we're going to lose this war, we want to make sure our knowledge survives." Torres showed the president a map of Earth. It was covered with red dots. "Each dot is a research facility," Torres said. "They are studying everything we can learn about the aliens. Their ships, their weapons, their weaknesses. If humanity is destroyed, maybe another race will find our research and use it to defeat the Empire." President Hayes looked at the map. "You think we're going to lose?" "I think we're going to fight," Torres said. "But we need to be smart about it." On Mars, the battle was still going on. Commander Reed had joined up with the Mars Defense Force. Together, they had 40 ships against 100 alien vessels dot the Martian orbital shipyards, were humanity's greatest achievement. They had taken 50 years to build and could make 10 new ships every month. Now the aliens wanted to destroy them. Reed watched as his pilots flew their small fighters between the giant alien ships. The human ships were like mosquitoes attacking. Elephants. But sometimes mosquitoes could be very annoying. "Target their weapons," Reed ordered. "We can't destroy them, but maybe we can slow them down." The human fighters darted in and out, firing their missiles at the alien gun batteries. Most of the missiles bounced off harmlessly, but a few found weak spots. Some of the alien weapons stopped working. It was not much, but it was something. The battle for Mars lasted a week. In the end, the aliens won. The shipyards were destroyed, and most of the human ships were gone. But the aliens had learned something important. Humans did not give up easily. Admiral Jake Morrison received reports from all the battles. Every report was the same. Humans were losing, but they were fighting hard. Very hard. "The aliens are slowing down," he told President Hayes. "They expected us to surrender after the first few attacks. Instead, we're making them fight for every planet." "Is that good or bad?" Hayes asked. "It's human," Morrison said, "and maybe that's enough." Dr. Ryan Clark was digging through the wreckage of a Zephyrian fighter when he found something strange. The alien ship had crashed on Mars during the big battle, and Ryan was part of the team studying the pieces. "This doesn't make sense," Ryan said to his assistant, Dr. Jane Miller. "What doesn't make sense?" Jane asked. Ryan held up a piece of alien technology. It looked like a crystal computer, but it was damaged. "Look at this. The aliens have amazing technology, but it's not built for fighting. It's built for scaring people." Jane looked at the crystal. "What do you mean?" "Their weapons are very powerful, but they use too much energy. Their ships are huge, but most of the space is empty. They're not built for war. They're built to look scary." Ryan and Jane spent days studying the alien wreckage. The more they learned, the more excited they became. The Zephyrian Empire was not as strong as it looked. "Jane, I think I know why no one ever fought the Empire before," Ryan said. "Why?" because they never had to. The Empire shows up with these huge, scary ships and tells everyone to surrender. Everyone gets scared and gives up. The Empire wins without fighting. But we're fighting them, Shane said. Exactly. And they don't know how to handle it. While Ryan was studying alien technology, Captain Beth Morgan was planning humanity's first real attack. Beth had been a cargo ship captain before the war, but she was smart and brave. Admiral Morrison had given her a special mission. Beth's ship was called the Spirit of Detroit. It was an old cargo ship that looked like junk, but Beth and her crew had filled it with explosives and weapons. They painted refugees on the side in big letters. Remember, Beth told her crew, we look like we're running away. We act scared. When they try to board us, we blow up the ship. The Spirit of Detroit flew toward a group of Zephyrian supply ships. The alien ships were carrying food and weapons to the Empire's fleet. If Beth could destroy them, it would hurt the aliens badly. The alien ships saw the Spirit of Detroit coming. They thought it was a refugee ship trying to escape. The Zephyrian commander decided to capture the humans and make them slaves. Unknown human vessel, stop your engines, the alien commander said over the radio. Prepare to be boarded. Please. Don't hurt us, Beth said, trying to sound scared. We're just civilians. We don't want to fight. The alien boarding ship came alongside the Spirit of Detroit. 20 Zephyrian soldiers climbed aboard. They were tall and thin, with blue skin and large eyes. They carried weapons that looked like they were made of light. Where are the rest of your people? The alien leader asked Beth. In the cargo hold, Beth said. They're hiding. They're very scared. The aliens followed Beth toward the cargo hold. They did not see her finger on the small button in her pocket. Goodbye, Beth whispered and pressed the button. The Spirit of Detroit exploded like a small star. The blast was so powerful that it destroyed 2 alien supply ships and damaged 3 others. Beth and her crew died, but they had struck a blow that the Empire would remember. News of Beth's attack spread quickly through the human fleet. For the first time since the war began, humans had destroyed alien ships. It could be done. Colonel Dan Wright was in charge of the human special forces. He was a small, quiet man who had spent years fighting in Earth's wars. Now he had a new enemy to fight. We can't match their big ships, Dan told his soldiers, but we can hit their supply lines. We can make them afraid to travel alone. Dan's teams began attacking alien convoys throughout the solar system. They used small, fast ships that could hide in asteroid fields. They would wait for alien supply ships to pass by, then attack and disappear. The attacks were small, but they added up. The aliens began to lose supplies. Their big ships needed fuel and food, just like human ships. When they didn't get what they needed, they became weaker. Commander Lisa Parker made the biggest discovery of all. She was leading a team of Marines trying to capture Europa Station back from the aliens. The mission failed, but Lisa learned something important. During the battle, Lisa's team had been using radio jammers to confuse the aliens. The jammers were meant to block alien communications, but they did something else too. They made the aliens act strange. The aliens stopped working together, Lisa reported to Admiral Morrison. When we turned on the jammers, they started acting like they were confused. They couldn't coordinate their attacks. What does that mean? Morrison asked. I think it means they're all connected somehow, like a hive mind. When we block their communications, they can't think clearly. Dr. Clark was very interested in Lisa's discovery. He began studying the alien communications equipment they had captured. What he found amazed him. The aliens are telepathic, Ryan told Admiral Morrison. They can read each other's minds. That's how they coordinate their attacks so well. But it's also their weakness. How so? If we can jam their telepathic communications, their whole fleet becomes confused. They're like a body that's lost its brain. Ryan and his team began building new radio jammers. These were more powerful than the old ones, and designed specifically to disrupt alien telepathy. The first ship to get the new jammers was the destroyer, Yorktown, commanded by Captain Nathan Cole. Nathan was a young captain who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission. He was going to test the new jammers against a Zephyrian battle group. The Yorktown approached the alien ships slowly. Nathan's hands were sweating as he prepared to test Dr. Clark's theory. "Turn on the jammers," Nathan ordered. The effect was immediate. The alien ships, which had been moving in perfect formation, began to drift apart. They fired their weapons randomly, hitting nothing. Some of them even collided with each other. "It works," Nathan shouted. "The jammers work." But the test was not over. The largest alien ship, a massive dreadnought, fired its main weapon at the Yorktown. The blast was powerful enough to destroy a city. Nathan watched the energy beam coming toward his ship. He was sure he was about to die, but something amazing happened. The Yorktown's new shields, also built from captured alien technology, absorbed the blast. The ship shook and sparks flew, but it survived. "We did it," Nathan said quietly. "We actually did it." The news spread through the human fleet. Like wildfire, the aliens could be stopped. Their ships could be damaged. Their communications could be jammed. For the first time since the war began, humanity had hoped. Admiral Morrison called a meeting of all human commanders. "The Empire has been winning for 3,000 years because no one ever fought back," he told them. "But we're fighting back, and we're learning how to hurt them. What's our next move?" asked Captain Santos. Morrison smiled. "We're going to show the galaxy that the Zephyrian Empire can bleed." Admiral Morrison stood in front of a huge star map in the war room. Red dots showed where the Zephyrian Empire controlled planets. Blue dots showed where humans lived. For months, the red dots had been taking over the blue dots. Now it was time to change that. "Operation Retribution begins today," Morrison told his commanders. "We're not just defending anymore. We're attacking." The human fleet had grown stronger. They now had 100 ships, many of them built with alien technology that Dr. Clark's team had figured out how to use. The ships had better weapons, stronger shields, and the telepathy jammers that could confuse alien crews. Captain Roy Davis commanded the first attack group. His target was Kepler 442b, a planet the aliens had conquered 5 years ago. The people there, called the Valdris, had been slaves ever since. Roy's fleet had 30 ships. They were facing an alien defense force of 50 ships and a planetary shield that could stop most weapons. It should have been impossible to win. "Remember," Roy told his captains, "we don't fight like the aliens expect. We hit fast, we hit hard, and we don't give them time to think." The human ships approached Kepler 442b in small groups, hiding behind asteroids and space debris. The aliens saw them coming, but thought they were refugee ships, trying to escape. By the time the Zephyrians realized it was an attack, it was too late. Roy's ships turned on their jammers all at once. 50 alien ships suddenly lost contact with each other. Some stopped moving completely. Others spun in circles, their crews too confused to control them. "All ships attack now," Roy ordered. The human fleet struck like lightning. Their weapons, powered by alien technology, punched through shields that had protected the Empire for centuries. Alien ships exploded one after another. The battle lasted 6 days. When it was over, Roy's fleet controlled the space around Kepler 442b. More importantly, they had freed an entire planet. The Valdris people could not believe what they saw. For 5 years, they had been slaves to the Empire. Now ships with Earth flags were landing on their world. We are free? Asked Valdris leader Kethra, speaking through a translator device. You are free, Roy said, and we need your help to free others. Meanwhile, Dr. Sarah Kim had been working on an even more powerful weapon. She had studied how the alien telepathy worked and found a way to attack it directly. It's like a computer virus, Sarah explained to Admiral Morrison. But instead of attacking computers, it attacks their minds. The virus was loaded into captured alien communication arrays and broadcast across Zephyrian space. The effect was devastating. Entire alien fleets lost contact with their commanders. Some crews abandoned their ships completely, unable to handle the mental confusion. On Earth, General Torres was coordinating with rebel groups on planets throughout the Empire. The human victory at Kepler 442b had inspired other enslaved races to fight back. Sir, we're getting messages from everywhere, Torres told President Hayes. The hegemony worlds in the Vega system have declared independence. The mining colonies in the Arcturus sector are in open revolt. Half the Empire is on fire. The Zephyrian response was swift and terrible. Emperor Zephi himself left the imperial capital for the first time in 1,000 years. He brought with him the core fleet, 500 of the Empire's most advanced warships. The Emperor was ancient, even by Zephyrian standards. He had ruled the Empire for over 2,000 years and had never faced a serious challenge to his power. The human rebellion was personal to him now. These creatures dare to defy me, the Emperor said to his commanders. They will be made to suffer for their arrogance. The core fleet was everything the Empire had learned about war in 3,000 years. Each ship was a masterpiece of alien technology, armed with weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been broken. Admiral Morrison watched the alien fleet approach Earth through long-range sensors. His reformed human fleet now had 150 ships, but they were still outnumbered more than 3 to 1. They're coming for Earth, Morrison told President Hayes. The Emperor wants to make an example of us. Are we ready? Hayes asked. Morrison looked at his fleet roster. Human ships crewed by people who had learned to fight against impossible odds. Captains who had turned cargo haulers into warships. Scientists who had turned alien technology against its creators. We're as ready as we'll ever be, Morrison said. The meeting point was chosen carefully. The remains of Mars hung in space like a broken necklace, destroyed early in the war, but still useful as cover. Morrison positioned his fleet among the asteroid. Fragments that had once been humanity's first colony. Captain Amy Foster commanded one of the strangest ships in the human fleet. The Indomitable had started life as a mining ship, designed to crack asteroids for ore. Now it mounted weapons that Dr. Clark's team had built from captured alien technology. This is it, Amy said to her crew as the alien fleet approached. Everything we've fought for comes down to this battle. The Emperor's flagship was a monument to Zephyrian power. It stretched for miles through space, covered in weapons and protected by shields that had never failed. At its heart sat the Emperor himself, confident that his enemies would be crushed as all others had been. He was about to learn that humans were different. Morrison gave the signal, and 150 human ships attacked 500 alien vessels. The jammers activated first, disrupting alien coordination. Then the weapons fired, targeting specific weak points that months of study had revealed. The first alien ship to die was a cruiser that had bombarded Europa Station. Captain Lisa Parker, now commanding the captured alien dreadnought Vengeance, put 3 missiles through its reactor core. That's for Europa, Lisa said as the enemy ship exploded. The battle raged across the debris field that had once been Mars. Human ships darted between asteroid fragments, using them as cover while they struck at the larger alien vessels. The aliens confused by the jammers and unfamiliar with guerrilla tactics, struggled to coordinate their response, but there were still too many of them. One by one, human ships began to fall. The destroyer Columbia was cut in half by an alien beam weapon. The cruiser Liberty was overwhelmed by 3 alien fighters. Brave crews died buying time for their comrades. Then Captain Amy Foster made her move. The Indomitable broke from cover and flew straight at the Emperor's flagship. Every alien weapon targeted the mining ship, filling space with deadly energy beams. Amy's ship took hit after hit, its hull glowing red-hot from enemy fire. But the mining ship was built tough, designed to work in the most dangerous conditions in space. "All power to forward shields," Amy ordered. "We only need to get close enough." The Indomitable smashed through the flagship's outer defenses and buried itself deep in the alien ship's hull. Amy looked at her crew one last time. "It's been an honor," she said, and activated the ship's mining charges. The explosion tore through the heart of the Emperor's flagship. For the first time in 2,000 years, Emperor Sci-Fi felt afraid. But the battle was not over. The alien fleet still outnumbered the humans, and more ships were dying every minute. Then something happened that no one expected. Ships began arriving from all over the galaxy. Valdris vessels from Kepler 442b, hegemony warships from Vega, rebel fleets from a dozen worlds that humanity had helped to free. "This is Captain Kethra of the Valdris Liberation Fleet," came a voice over the radio. "We stand with Earth." The tide of battle turned. What had begun as humanity's last stand became the galaxy's first united fight for freedom. The Emperor watched, his fleet being destroyed by an alliance of races he had thought were safely enslaved. His 1,000-year reign was ending, and he knew it. In desperation, he activated his flagship's core overload. If he was going to die, he would take his enemies with him. But Commander Lisa Parker was ready for him. Commander Lisa Parker saw the Emperor's flagship beginning to glow with dangerous energy. She had seen this before when other alien ships tried to self-destruct. But this was different. This explosion would be big enough to destroy half the human fleet. "The Emperor is trying to take us all with him," Lisa said to her crew aboard the captured alien dreadnought Vengeance. "Not if I can help it." Lisa had been fighting the aliens for 2 years. She had lost friends, seen colonies destroyed, and watched thousands of people die. Now she had a chance to end it all. "Set course for the Emperor's ship," she ordered. "Full speed." "Ma'am, that's suicide," her weapons officer said. "Maybe," Lisa replied, "but it's our choice to make." The Vengeance flew straight toward the Emperor's flagship. The alien ship was growing brighter as its core prepared to explode. Lisa could see other human ships trying to get away from the blast zone, but they would not be fast enough. Admiral Morrison watched from his command ship as Lisa's vessel approached the Emperor's flagship. He understood what she was trying to do. "All ships, pull back now," Morrison ordered over the radio. "Get as far away as possible." The Vengeance reached the Emperor's flagship just as it began to explode. Lisa aimed her ship at the alien vessels, core and fired every weapon she had. The 2 ships collided in a ball of fire that lit up the solar system like a second sun. The explosion was so bright that people on Earth could see it without telescopes. The blast wave knocked out communications across the inner planets. For 10 minutes, no one knew what had happened. When the light faded and the sensors came back online, both ships were gone. The Emperor's flagship was nothing but scattered debris. The Vengeance had vanished completely, but the human fleet was still there. Lisa's sacrifice had contained the explosion, saving thousands of lives. The remaining Zephyrian ships were in chaos. Without their Emperor, they had no idea what to do. Some tried to keep fighting. Others began to retreat. Many just floated in space, their crews too shocked to move. Admiral Morrison gave the order to stop shooting. The battle was over. Captain Roy Davis, who had been fighting near Jupiter, received the news first. "The Emperor is dead," he told his crew. "The war is over." But the real victory was happening across the galaxy. On 43 different worlds, enslaved people were rising up against their Zephyrian masters. The empire that had ruled for 3,000 years was crumbling. On Kepler 442b, the Valdris people were celebrating in the streets. They had been slaves for 5 years, but now they were free. Similar celebrations were happening on worlds throughout. The galaxy. The hegemony worlds in the Vega system declared themselves independent. The mining colonies in the Arcturus sector formed their own government. Everywhere, people were refusing to obey the Empire. A few months later, President Hayes stood before the newly formed Galactic Liberation Council. Representatives from dozens of worlds had come to Earth to discuss the future. The meeting was being held in the ruins of New York, which had been damaged during the war. "We gather here not as conquerors, but as liberators," Hayes said to the assembled delegates. "Humanity did not fight this war to rule the galaxy. We fought it to free the galaxy." The surviving Zephyrians had retreated to their home world, Zephyr Prime. They sent a message asking for peace talks. Their new leader was a young Zephyrian named Veltar, who had opposed the Emperor's war. "We know we cannot win," Veltar said. In his message, "We ask for mercy." The Galactic Liberation Council debated for days about what to do with the Zephyrians. Some wanted revenge. Others wanted to make them pay for their crimes. But in the end, they chose a different path. "The age of empires is over," President Hayes announced. "We will not replace one tyrant with another. The Zephyrians will be allowed to live in peace on their home world, but they will never again be allowed to enslave others." The new galactic government was not an empire. It was a federation of free worlds, each one ruling itself but working together for the common good. Earth was just one member among many. Dr. Ryan Clark, who had started the war by studying alien wreckage, was now helping to rebuild the galaxy. His team was sharing human technology with other worlds, while learning from them in return. "It's amazing," Ryan said to his old assistant, Dr. Jane Miller. "We're learning so much from each other. The Valdris have medicine that can cure diseases we've never been able to treat. The hegemony worlds have energy technology that could power Earth for 1,000 years. The human fleet was being rebuilt too." Admiral Morrison was now in charge of the Galactic Defense Force, which included ships from many different worlds. The new fleet was not meant to conquer, but to protect. Captain Maria Santos, who had saved millions of refugees during the war, was now in charge of helping people rebuild their lives. She traveled from world to world, bringing supplies and hope to places that had been damaged by the Empire. "The hardest part is over," Maria told a group of refugees on a world called New Haven. "Now we build something better." On Mars, construction. Crews were working to rebuild the planet. The orbital shipyards were being rebuilt, bigger and better than before. This time, they would build ships for exploration and trade, not just for war. Commander Alex Reed, who had led the desperate defense of the outer colonies, was now training pilots from different worlds to work together. His new students included humans, Valdris, and even some young Zephyrians who wanted to make up for their people's past mistakes. "Flying is flying," Alex told his mixed class of students. "It doesn't matter what world you come from. What matters is whether you're willing to work together." The memorial for those who died in the war was built in orbit around Earth. It was a simple structure, just a crystal that reflected the light of the sun. But it carried the names of everyone who had died fighting for freedom. Lisa Parker's name was there, along with Beth Morgan, Kevin Shaw, Amy Foster, and thousands of others. They had given their lives so that the galaxy could be free, Admiral Morrison visited the memorial often. He would float in his small ship, looking at the names and remembering the people behind them. Each name represented someone who had chosen to fight rather than surrender. They didn't die for nothing, Morrison would say to himself. They died so that no one would ever have to bow down to an empire again. The changes were happening everywhere. On worlds that had been strip-mined by the empire, new forests were growing. On planets where people had been slaves, children were going to school for the first time. The galaxy was healing, but perhaps the biggest change was in how different species saw each other. Before the war, most races had lived in isolation, afraid to make contact with others. The empire had encouraged this fear, keeping everyone separated and weak. Now, ships from dozens of worlds traveled freely between the stars. Trade routes connected distant planets. Scientists shared discoveries. Artists exchanged ideas. The galaxy was becoming one community instead of many isolated worlds. Earth had become a symbol of something important. It was not the biggest planet or the richest world. It was the place where people had first said no to tyranny and made it stick. Tourists came from across the galaxy to see the small blue planet that had changed everything. They would stand in the museums and look at displays showing the first human ships that had fought the Empire. They would visit the battlefields where the war had been won. Most of all, they would meet humans and see that they were not some special warrior race. They were just ordinary people who had decided that freedom was worth fighting for. How did you do it? Visitors would ask. How did you defeat an empire that had ruled for 3,000 years? The humans would usually smile and give the same answer. We refused to give up. But there was more to it than that. Humans had something that the empire had never understood. They worked together not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. They fought not because they wanted to conquer, but because they wanted to be free. 10 years after the war ended, President Hayes gave a speech at the anniversary celebration. He was older now, his hair completely gray, but his voice was still strong. 10 years ago, an empire came to our world and demanded submission, Hayes said. They told us we had no choice. They were wrong. The crowd cheered. People from 100 different worlds had come to Earth for the celebration. They came to remember the war, but also to celebrate the peace that had followed. We learned something important during those dark days, Hayes continued. We learned that freedom is not something that can be given or taken away by others. Freedom is something you choose for yourself, every single day. In the audience, Dr. Ryan Clark sat with his family. His daughter was now a pilot in the Galactic Defense Force, flying ships that he had helped design. She wore a uniform that carried patches from Earth, Valdris Prime, and New Hegemony. Dad, she whispered during the speech, do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had said yes to the Empire? Ryan thought about it for a moment. We would still be alive, he said, but we wouldn't be living. The speech ended with a moment of silence for those who had died. Across the galaxy, people stopped what they were doing and remembered the cost of freedom. In that silence, you could almost hear the voices of the fallen, whispering the same message they had died to. Deliver. The galaxy belongs to the free.